but we're gonna help move forward in a better way. And
Domesticated house.
what's your name? I'm not sure your last name.
I mean, I'm not.
I don't think your last name's
You missed the bar, don't you?
I don't think
Every day. You have that look.
so.
The only part I miss about that, George, the only part I miss about that is seeing
Order. We still have people checking in quickly, hopefully. All rise for the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
William Morrison, M641 Birch Street. I have a request that we would like to add an item to the agenda for tonight's annual meeting, and that would be to return both the town clerk and treasurer to elected officers. So if you could put that on the agenda.
Well, that can come from comments from the audience.
I just want to make it, that it's on the record that I say that now. Because I was advised to state that at the beginning of the meeting.
Okay, we need to vote on what method, do we have a motion on what method of voting we will be using for this meeting? Ballot, show of hands, or standing? Yes, Dorothy.
Dorothy Olson, M, 341 Fox Avenue. I move that we vote by paper ballot.
Paper ballot. Is there a second?
Judy Gatsky, M234 County Highway, I second that.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to written ballot. Is there any discussion? Okay. Well, time now for balance. Can we just do,
You guys just do a yes or no on this one?
Until this passes or fails, you do whatever we want.
Why don't you just ask them?
okay,
All in favor?
all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against?
No.
I think the ayes have it.
Ayes have it. Okay, motion carried. Reading and approval of minutes. Town of Millen annual town meeting on April 19th, 2017, 6 p.m. Welcome and open meeting. The meeting was called to order at 6 p.m. by Chairperson Carolyn Opitz. The Pledge of Allegiance was recited. Minutes of April 21st, 2016 annual meeting. The minutes of the April 19th, 2016 annual meeting were read by Chairperson Opitz. Gary Franz moved to approve the minutes as read. George Durkis second. Voice vote, all in favor, none opposed, motion carried. Established voting, Gary Franz moved to vote by ballot. Debbie Durkis second. Voice vote, all in favor, none opposed, motion carried. Introduction of elected officials. Kevin Steins, Dave Swenson, and Carolyn Opitz were recently elected and sworn in by clerk. 2016 financial report. The 2016 financial report was given by Treasurer Steve Katona. Clarence Ortell asked about the fire department savings account designations. Steve asked if anyone liked the format. Dorothy appreciated the information shared. Debbie Durkis moved to accept the annual report for 2016 as presented. George Durkis second. Discussion. Ron Durkis asked why the report did not designate where the tax dollars went. Vote 24 in favor, 1 opposed, 1 abstained. Comments from the public. George Durkis asked about fire department and buying an ambulance. Seamer's Tavern update. Gary Franz mentioned Man Road and rights of ways. Ryan and Kim Niehaus discussed issues they have experienced at his residence on Galvin Avenue. They feel the blasting at the gravel pit next door is responsible for the issues experienced. Mike Joyce discussed signage on Man at the intersection of County Road E. A complaint of vehicles speeding past his residence, dog complaints, and ATVs on the road. Joe Berger asked if anyone had any questions regarding road naming or any issues on addressing. Joe explained that anyone with any complaints regarding road names should discuss the issue with neighbors and give any recommendations to Joe so that he could forward to the county. There are approximately 25 roads in the township where road names are being changed. Larry Seaacre asked if the budget is going to be done before the end of December. Annual meeting date for 2018. Dave Swenson moved to set the annual meeting date for April 17th, 2018. Debbie Durkis second. Discussion none. Voice vote. All in favor. None opposed. Announcements. Board of Review is scheduled for Wednesday, May 31st, 2016. Typo. Yes, corrected to 2017. Open from 5 to 7 p.m. Board of Review from 7 to 9 p.m. At 7:26, Deb Durkis moved to adjourn. Dorothy Olson seconded. Voice vote. All in favor. Motion carried. Respectfully submitted, Patty Ron, clerk. Do we have a motion to approve the reading of the minutes?
I move Joe Berger, M321 Birch Street. I move to approve the minutes as read with the correction of the 2017 instead of 2016.
Okay. Is there a second?
Paul Mansell, M212 Man Street. I'd like to ask for a correction.
Yes.
The minutes of April 21st annual meeting. The next line says the minutes of the April 19th meeting.
Oh, so 2 corrections. Which one? Which one was it? The 21st? Okay, so the minutes of the April 21st, 2016 annual meeting are the correct, that's the correct. So which is it? Yeah, there. Incorrect on minutes of the April 19th, 2016. Okay, did you want a second with that, Paul?
No, it sounds like it's been taken care of.
Okay, all right, that part is, so now, is there a second for the minutes? Gary?
Gary Brandon, M526, Birch, I'll second it.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded to approve the minutes, annual town meeting minutes for April 19, 2017, as corrected. Is there any further discussion? Okay. Can we take a voice vote on the minutes? or do you wanna take a, written vote? We approve written,
Voice,
we,
voice is sufficient.
voice is sufficient. Okay, all those in favor, raise their hand or say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, motion carried. No any abstentions? Okay. I guess here, I didn't ask if there were, I understand there are a couple of people here that are not residents of the township. You have been written down as guests, is that correct? I don't know where the list is. So those people will not be voting, and I didn't sign in.
Make
Did
sure
everyone sign in?
Yeah.
I didn't.
I couldn't find the sheet at the time.
I never seen them out there.
Anyone else that did not sign in? We will count here, so we make sure we know the numbers. Oh. Okay.
Carol, do we have to sign in on separate lines?
Oh, you mean you and,
Yeah, we put it all in one.
you put it all in one, like Kathy and Lynn Bardell?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll watch here.
See what's out there.
There's two of them that did that,
Two of them,
Gary and Sandy Stride.
Gary and Ron and
Carter.
Brian.
Carter and Ron, Carter did.
Oh, it's ninety of them, man.
Okay. Gary and Gary and Sandy Stride on this one.
Carolyn, do we have to re-sign?
No, we've got you marked down here. Kathy, Lou Parvell, Bernie and Jim Mercer, Ron and Carly and Durkis, and where is,
Right here.
right here, you've got them over there. Gary and Sandy Stride. Okay. How many altogether? Did you get, these are the guests on the bottom over here? Okay, and you found it down in the,
C-24 and 3 guests. Is that what you have?
hmm?
You can have 74 votes. 74 votes.
74 votes.
I don't know if she's on it. Are you guys on this list?
Okay.
Oh, their name's on it.
Okay, all right, now we will move to reviewing the 2017 annual financial report. All right, you all got these in your newsletter, are there questions as far as the annual financial report? Yes, George?
Dorothy Olson, M, 341 Fox Avenue. What was the balance left over at the end of the year that we carried over?
55,390 was in the checking on the last page. Got it?
Are we going to go back to using QuickBooks at our meetings?
I do.
So that, I mean, it was so easy to follow. We knew what we were looking at. It came down, you know, we knew what was budget, because when we voted on a budget for our budget hearing, it was on line items. This is not our line item system. And it was very clear.
You want basically the budget?
Well, you know, I mean, what we voted on when we all came at the last public meeting, which our vote does count.
Because these come from the line items.
And now it's more general. I mean, we don't know exactly, you know, it says board salary. It used to be divided up, so we knew, you know, which supervisor was getting which, you know. And then on our, when we budget that, we are aware of what we're budgeting for.
Yes, please.
If anybody doesn't know who I am, my name is Patty Ron, I'm the former clerk, I resigned on the 15th of December. I helped Debbie create this. The reason you're not seeing line items, because this is based on the Form CT, which is what the town is required to turn into the Department of Revenue. It's also a different format because I helped Debbie create it this year, and in the past, when I was the clerk, Steve Katona created it. So this came from, it's based off of what I turned into the state, plus the extra information that was on previous financial reports that the treasurer had put in. That's why you're looking at something different.
I guess, and personally, I liked it better the other way. You know, it was very clear.
If there wasn't a turnover, you probably would see it the other way.
Any questions?
I-
Yes, ma'am.
Larry Seaver, M341 Elm Street. I'd like an explanation. On the second page, it says illegal tax refunds.
That is what the account is called according to Uniform Chart of Accounts from the Department of Revenue. Illegal tax is it's a label given to the account where a taxpayer makes a payment higher than what their taxes, the tax bill was, either based on their escrow or whatever the case may be. It's just a label that is in the Chart of Accounts from the Department of Revenue.
So that's how they want it.
Yes, sir.
That's
Is
what
it
it's
illegal?
stated.
Because it raises the question.
Well,
It does. Yeah, it raises the question every year.
Yeah, refunds, really.
Or is that how it's gonna be stated from here on out, or you're gonna just make it tax refunds?
There's
Because like
more
it's-
to that account name for the chart of accounts than what is listed here. It's just abbreviated that way. And that's up to the town to take off the word illegal if you want it up there.
So is that what the state recommends?
That is in the
Using the
state.
word illegal in your tax refunds?
That is
I'll
what
tell
is
you
on the
exactly
form.
what it says. Here.
Because that raises questions, like I just stated.
It's, illegal taxes, refunds, and unclassified, that is what goes in there.
So anybody that overpays, that's an illegal tax.
No, they get a refund.
But it says here illegal tax refund.
Yeah,
Yes,
they get a refund because it is an illegal tax.
There you go.
What was that?
Good night.
Yes,
Who's this
please,
gentleman here?
please. This is Attorney Lee Tironi, who is going to be speaking to us later, and he is here to speak to any questions that anybody has that he can probably clarify it much better than any of us.
So the handout apparently is abbreviated, and the full title was what again?
Illegal taxes, refunds, and unclassified.
So if you paid in more than you're legally obligated to pay, that margin that you overpaid is an illegal tax. The government doesn't have a right to take it. And so that's the second word in the column is refunds. The town's then obligated to turn around and refund those overpayments. And goes on every year. Mostly it happens from these escrows that the people's mortgages don't adjust them to the taxes if they change, and you end up with an inaccurate amount paid in. So happens all the time. It's a big pain in the butt. But the label illegal tax is actually spot on. That's what it is. When you pay tax, if they're not entitled to, that's why they have to refund it. It was illegal. So good catch, but it's the way it is. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, Gary?
Gary Franz and 526 Birch. I like the old format too. I know a couple of the annual meetings, people like requested, like Ron Durfus, he worked for whatever department, that his salaries for each department was listed separate. And the town board, our salary was listed, and our meetings were listed separate. Everything's all lumped together now. And I think they should be broke down. I mean, that's what transparency is all about. The public works, you have two drivers there, their wages were separate, now they're all lumped together. I'd just soon see it go back to the old way.
Yep. Okay. Any other questions for the report?
Mike Joyce from 209 County Mead. I definitely agree with Gary. I mean, this is way too
much?
Way too much. We don't know what's going on by looking at this. I mean, this looks like something that a Democrat would do.
Okay. Yes, Paul.
Paul Mansell, M212 Man Street. I just have a question under some of the equipment costs. The Cruise Air for 2016 had no charges whatsoever. So does that mean we don't need it, or what?
We lucked out.
Well,
We didn't
I
have
don't know what
anything go wrong
2017
with it. Yeah. I don't believe it says that, well, I don't believe that means that we don't need it. I think that if we just lucked out that we didn't have to have any repairs. Dave, is there anything else that you wanna add to that?
I don't think any expenditures were made to that unit last year.
What, yeah, that's what he's saying. Does that mean, did you hear what his question was?
It's still necessary and needed.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Okay. Do we have a motion to accept the annual report? Oh, excuse
In
me.
regards to that equipment, wouldn't there at least be like annual maintenance? I'm sorry, carrier salary fire, accountability. Wouldn't there be annual maintenance or inspection or anything on all of the pieces of equipment like this? So there would at least be something? Or are they not inspecting here in I don't know.
Wants to know if there's any maintenance on the vehicle, should there be some expenditure?
Are they inspected annually? Is it a DOT?
I'd like to cover at least the fire department ones. The DOT, we have, if you look on here, there's one for equipment and apparatus maintenance.
Oh, okay.
So our DOT is all lumped together because one company does all the rates. So we don't break it individually on those for the fire department side. And also there's two rates still on here that keep falling underneath every year because it's been there. But that we no longer own. So like ladder 6, we no longer own that, so there is no bill on that. But that's the fire department side, so.
Makes sense. Thank you.
And the maintenance, fees for the, all of the vehicles, aren't the other vehicles, town vehicles also pretty much checked out at the same time? Dave, Rodney?
Just
Are-
the
For the
trucks are.
maintenance?
Excuse me,
For the trucks, for the town
trucks are,
trucks?
but, not the tractor or the Cruise Air, no. They aren't for inspection, no.
Okay.
Carolyn?
Dorothy.
Dorothy Olson, M3401 Fox Ave, you still gotta change oil in them, I mean, we gotta have, you just can't leave a vehicle or anything sit there for a year. And, that cruiser,
All the oil for the highway goes under the shop expense. So it's probably done in-house. If he has a filter, then it's probably under shop expense. If I received an invoice that was designated to a certain machine, that's where you're gonna see the expenditure. If he bought something in bulk, then you're not gonna see it broke out.
Okay. Oh, hi, Judy.
Hi.
I'm sorry.
Judy Gatkey, I'm 234 Common Highway E. So to get the old, more itemized format back, do we have to make a request, a motion, or how do we go about getting the formatting changed so it's more itemized out for transparency and our understanding?
I mean, if the majority of you want it that way, then we'll just do it that way.
So should we
Or
make a
whatever.
motion then, or?
Pardon me?
Should we make a motion then?
If you wish to do that, that
Okay.
would be fine.
I would like to make a motion to go back to more itemized, transparent format for the budget report.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Okay, a motion's been made and seconded to go back to our old method, or the last,
Wait a minute, because there have been
there's changes made.
formats for every clerk, so we got about 9. This is the treasurer's format. The financial report, it's treasurer.
So what they're saying is the way
They just want a more itemized report. Right, so that, you don't wanna make it back to one or the other, you
so
want
to
a more.
make it a more item, but like the one I have. So read the part of the motion.
It was to return to previous format.
Treasures.
No, it won't say treasurer.
So what is it, the motion is going to, okay, the motion was made to return to the previous format. Okay? So whatever you, yeah. So, is there any further discussion?
I have, yes, on that, was it supposed to be financial only, was that your motion? The financial format and not the clerk format? Is that what your motion was?
Yes,
You'll have to state that in your motion. You want a financial format, previous, not the clerk format.
I didn't say clerk.
No,
I said
but
clerk.
there's a confusion.
Would you like, Judy, would you like to amend your motion to say,
That you would like a more detailed financial statement at the annual meeting to include the individual, individual wages.
And more breakdown of some, yeah, more detailed report of this financial report for the meeting. That is my amended motion.
that's your amendment? Yeah, okay, the motion has been made to, and amended to have the financial report with more detail, as was the previous report from 2017. Is that correct?
Well, I don't remember what 2017 looked like, but more itemization, more detail,
Okay.
that's what I'm talking about.
Okay. And then Dorothy, did you second that?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, I think, the ayes carry. Okay. All right. I guess that's it. So we, now, motion to accept the annual report. Now, as presented. So we just voted to amend the way that we were going to present it in our next one. So now do we have a motion?
Bruce Wyman, M636 Galvin Avenue. I move we accept the financial report.
Is there a second?
I made the motion, we accept the report. Yeah.
Second, you second.
I'm sorry.
Okay. The motion has been made and seconded to approve the financial report as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? One abstain. Okay. Motion carried. Okay. Moving on. Any announcements or presentations from the chairperson, supervisors, or fire department? I think we will go first for supervisors. Dave, you have any road things that you want to discuss?
Dave Swenson, M520 Elm Street. The only thing, I rode with Pat, I've ridden with Gene over the last, since last year. People who either hire or push snow across the road, a town right away, and that's illegal. The snow that you have on your own property stays there. I know it's been a struggle for you, or even the last weekend here, but it makes it difficult for our operators to, once that stuff is pushed across the road, if it freezes down, could potentially damage equipment and even personnel. So I'd just like to make that point. But I'd also like to commend the people that kept your roads clean. Over the weekend, it was a struggle, but they put in the hours, and I think they need to be commended and thanked for that.
Okay, thank you. Kevin? You have anything to say?
Not really. New rep was on the town hall. As soon as it warms up and Randy wants to get the concrete done, we get concrete done. The bottom part of the door broke. It's still secure, but when we get to the concrete, we're gonna have to look at if we can just do the socket, or if we have to put a new front door in when we get to that point.
Okay, thank you.
We talk about plowing snow, okay? Our roads were a whole lot better than 97. You went across 97 and you were falling in every chuck hole there was. So I gotta tell you, we got some good guys that are plowing snow in our township.
Thank you. Okay, Rodney?
As chief, I don't have anything, but my EMS coordinator does.
I'm a little short here, so y'all can't see me. Lori Bauer at 504 Pine Street. I'm the EMS coordinator for the Town of Golden Fire Department. May 12th, from 1 to 4, we will be having an open house here at the fire station. It is welcome to everybody and anybody who wants to come see what we do and has an interest in joining us. We're gonna have some big electrification going on outside, we'll have some EMS stuff going on out here, and we'll have a little garbage can fire out back over here so you can kind of see everything we do, everything that encompasses what we do, and how hard we have to work to keep our training up to do it the correct way to help save you guys and your property.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else that has? Yes.
Yeah, Gary Franz, I wanna thank the people from my last firm, and maybe I can get back in the future again. And I also wanted to bring up, Dave, I called you this morning, left a message, but with the plowing, I had a lot of complaints about gravel in the ditches. You need to pick that wing up. now they're throwing up all kinds of sod because they're letting that wing hang. I had another complaint this afternoon. I had one, the other day, and I had another one this afternoon about the amount of sod being tore up with the wings. The shoulders are soft now. They wing that back, they need to pick them blades up. I mean, other than that, they do a good job of plowing. I did have one complaint, Saturday from a guy that had been plowed out. And I said, we're all plowing, that's all he said.
I did address it with the road maintenance man. He said that's gonna happen, it happens every year. They go back and repair it and try to do what they can with retrieving what gravel they can. And they do repair the sod. And they did address the, other one about near the mailbox of one of them, so those were addressed already. Okay, Rodney, the fire department, did you have anything else?
No, nothing else.
Okay, all right, so then, now we're gonna move on. We have had a situation where there have been allegations, yes,
Just on your report maybe. Last year there was a lot of talk with 97 with the county or the state as far as the accidents that happened
yes.
on the sunset. They put the cameras up. Is there anything, feedback that came of that and any course that they may take to address that?
The last that when we met with the two men from the state, this is addressing the Galvin 97 intersection. At this point, they don't plan on doing anything more than putting up the cameras again. And we're going to try and work with the sheriff's department to get more officers out here to try and patrol it. 97 is going to be redone in 1922. I mean 2022. And at that time, they will address it. They are still going over everything, and the options are, they gave us all these options, which we didn't much like any of them, but that will be brought back to us to discuss. And there is discussion about a roundabout there. The lights, stop lights are not, that would not work, they said, so.
Well, and I believe the state regulates them when they come out of the city. And I think we've all been stuck by Weilers and Walmart light for what seems to be,
Yeah.
3 or 4 cycles of
Yeah.
the ones south, and
So,
whether
yeah.
that could be pushed or addressed. I mean, is there anything as
Well, that would be,
Millen
we can,
do to put pressure?
I guess we can ask, you
Well, I
know.
mean, if the
As far
residents-
as the intersection part of it, that's all that I have had any talk, any conversation with any of the state people. And at this point, until 2022, hopefully, I said, well, hopefully we don't have a real bad accident and a death before you get around to it. So, we'll see. Yes?
Frank Mercer, M5 Cherry Street. What about a colored sign like in Elton? They changed up that white sign, no one's reading it. It's not big enough.
I know.
Can they do something like that?
I told him that we had a resident that threatened to go down with his chainsaw and cut down the sign that they had up because it made it more dangerous than before. So they went out, their solution with that was the little orange flags.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, nobody pays any attention
Cars
to
are
that
still
either.
passing on the
Yeah,
right,
it doesn't make
lots
any
of them.
difference, yeah. So I guess we just keep at 'em, just keep calling. So, okay, moving on. We have, as I started to say, we've had allegations, accusations, and we take those things very seriously, and they need to be addressed. And so after I received calls from the sheriff's office, the detective, etc., I went to our attorney, Mr. Teroni, and so he is here tonight to address questions that you may have, and we'll talk to you about the allegations, accusations that have been made. So, Lee, I'm gonna turn it over to you.
Good evening. My name is Lee Teroni. I guess a brief introduction. I'm an attorney. I'm based out of Wausau. I do basically all municipal law. I probably work with 1 or 2 dozen municipalities at this time. I used to work at the Towns Association. So when I was there, I worked with hundreds of towns. A little bit more, a little bit less at a time, but basically you get around to a lot of them. I think I met Carolyn doing that years ago. I used to participate in the sessions together with people like the IRS and Department of Revenue, where we did the budget sessions where officers, they're not obligated to go, but a lot of them go to get training on how to do their budgets and such. I used to go and be part of those programs. So I know a lot of municipal law. That's basically all I do. I've been doing it, that's all I've been doing for 10, 11 years, something like that. So, and I've actually been the town attorney for probably a year and a half, but not much came up actually until recently. So I haven't done a lot for the town, but we talked about changing that for a little while. That's why I'm here tonight, just so that we can, people have questions, that's fine. Government's complicated, there's a lot of laws, a lot of stuff involved with it. Your elected officials are, volunteers, essentially. They get elected, they come into it with about the same amount of training that any of you have, and so you can imagine you got questions and you need to get answers from other people, and that's fine. What we thought was, because there's been more questions lately, that I would come tonight, and then I'll come to the next couple board meetings. We'll see, I don't have to come to every one of them, and I don't think for any of the municipalities I work for do I go to every meeting. But I do go every so often when a couple of things have piled up and they want a couple of things addressed, and sometimes it's just to have someone there so you can get an answer faster. You don't necessarily have to wait till the next day and have it ready for the next meeting, which can be a month away. So we'll try this for a while and see how it goes. I do the straight shooter routine. So I'll tell you if you're correct, I'll tell you if you're wrong. Sometimes, you don't get the answer you want. That's the way it is, okay? My client, just so you understand, in the world of municipal law, my client is actually the town of McMillan. It's not any individual in this room directly, even if they're elected. It's the town entity. Now, the town is governed by the town board for the most part, so that's mostly who's in charge of telling me something to look into, just so you understand. But it's the town of McMillan, not even a board member who's literally my boss, if that makes sense. So that's just a little background. I'll take whatever questions that you want to have, okay? But I'll just give you the cliff notes first. As far as the investigations that were referred to the police, the sheriff's department, and the district attorney, it's my latest information that you're not going to hear anything else about it. The district attorney office is really not looking into it. There was a police investigation back in 12. There was a Department of Revenue investigation back in 12. The Department of Revenue has a division that works with local governments. Those are the people I used to work with, in fact. Apparently they investigated stuff back in 12. Neither of them found anything. They closed them down, and that's been it. So when the DA and the police had that referred again lately, apparently all the statutes of limitations have run. So if anything happened in 2012 or thereabouts, the actual police or district attorney they literally can't do anything at this time, so they're not going to be pursuing those investigations. So that's my latest information. I have spoken with detectives, I've spoken to the DA. That's the latest information from that stuff. Now, that doesn't mean you don't have questions about those things or other things. and we can still get answers to questions. Okay? But I just wanted to let you know because, I'm not gonna oversell you on what's coming down the pipe, there's not much. I can look at anything, I can look into anything that the town board wants me to. It's the town's money to spend, okay? Do you have questions about things that were in the latest reports or any other issues? Ma'am?
Yes, I'm Sam Steiner, M220 Foxfire Lane, and I'm hearing sort of two different things coming from it. I just want to really clarify exactly what you're saying. So there were allegations that were cleared in 2012, if I understand correctly.
So the question is, am I saying in 2012 allegations were cleared? I can tell you there was at least 2 investigations. One by Department of Revenue, their local government division, who are the specialists in this stuff and who go around the state and tell everyone what to do, okay? Nobody found anything. And those investigations closed back in 12. Now, did anything happen? I don't know, I wasn't there. I can tell you that when they looked after the fact, they couldn't find anything and that was it.
So the allegations that were brought up again, they were the identical allegations brought up again in 2018.
Some things were brought up recently. Basically, some things that happened in 12 were brought up again recently.
Again, they were the same things that had been brought up in 2012.
There were some of the same things. Okay. And I'm telling you that the DA's not even going to do anything because statutes of limitations have run.
And they were already proven to be.
Okay, I'm going to split a lot of hairs because I'm an attorney, okay, guys? I don't mean to frustrate you. Okay? Proving a negative versus finding evidence, all right? Was there any evidence of wrongdoing found in 12? No, there was not. Okay? Did anything happen? I mean, no one was there who looked into it, all right? I'm not a personal witness, and neither were those people who looked at it. But nothing could be found by the investigations that occurred. Those statutes of limitations have run. So law enforcement at this time is not looking into it now. And I'll give you one more.
So let me just clarify. Then there's been a lot of rumors running around, and I just want to get some of the rumors out and get your read on them.
Sure.
And there was something about 15 allegations of criminal activity against the board that were brought in like February 16th, I think, of this year. And then there was an investigation done, and what is the status of those 15 allegations of criminal activity that were alleged on February 16th?
Well, so what's the status of those things that were more recently alleged? I mean, again, my last information is nothing's going to happen. Okay?
So nothing was found.
I did look into the more recent stuff. Okay? I didn't, how do you say this? I didn't get down to the town office yet and myself go through a bunch of papers, but from my initial analysis of it, I just couldn't find anything either. For example, and only the ones coming to mind right now, but if there's others, you guys can bring them up, or if you give me a second, I can find them, okay? One was, forgive me if she's sitting here, the appointment of someone to a position. It was Donna, her reappointment to a position after many years. And I know some years ago she left that position. And so that was one of the questions. And the reason that's a non-issue, and it is a non-issue, is because you have a term. Whether you're appointed or elected, you have a term. It's usually 2 or 3 years. And if you are removed for cause from a position, so it's a formal process, and if you have that formal process removed from someone from a position, can they ever serve in that position again? And the answer is after some time, yeah. What the statute says is that you cannot appoint someone to a vacancy who has just been removed from a position. Now what that's designed to do is you don't go through all the trouble of removing someone and then have that whole shortcut process by appointing the person to the vacancy that was just created by the fact that they got removed. Okay, that's a loophole close. But that's that term, and that term ended. And then there were 2 or 3 more terms. And then there was a new term and someone was appointed. Now at that point, it's just their qualification to hold office whatsoever, which is for an appointed person even less than an elected person. Okay? And I can tell you for an elected person, citizen, at least 18 years old, resident of town, no felony convictions. That's about it, be an elected official in the town. For an appointed person, you know, you don't have to be a resident, of course. So there's like one less requirement. But if you don't have a felony and you're at least 18 and you're a citizen, well, you can serve in a local position. I mean, that's the law. Okay? And there were others I don't recall offhand, but if you have questions, we can start there, yes.
Gary Franz, M526 Birch. I don't even know if we should be discussing this right now. To my knowledge, that investigation is still open.
Well, I'm not afraid to discuss it right now.
Nothing has been closed.
I'm here to discuss it right now. I'm not afraid to. I don't think the cops will do anything to me that I discussed it here tonight. I've got my legal opinion. I looked into the stuff. I looked at the statutes. That's my job. I'm an attorney. And if the cops get mad at me, let me worry about that. Okay?
Well, I'm on the board, and I've got nothing back on this investigation.
I realize that.
I understand the only communication has been to our chair. All the emails and stuff have been sent to her phone computer. The township has received nothing because I have asked any correspondence that we got on this matter, I wanted copies of it. And I was told we hadn't gotten anything through the town yet.
I don't think you have. I don't think you have gotten anything. I've had some meetings with those people, the detectives and the DA, and all they told me is that they're not doing anything. So that's why I presume you haven't gotten anything. If you get anything, we can let people know, certainly. But I haven't seen the town get anything either.
William Arnson, M641 Birch Street. Have you had official notice that this has been closed by the DA or by the inspector?
No.
No, you just said right now that they're just not doing anything.
Correct.
They have not closed it. So
That's
this
my
is-
knowledge.
To my knowledge, then, that's an ongoing investigation.
Why aren't they doing anything?
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Maybe it is. But they
Maybe
told.
it is.
Maybe it is.
Maybe it is.
If it's not closed, it's not closed.
What kind of lawyer are you?
So, that's where it's at. It's not closed.
That's
They have told me, all I can do is, I'm not the cops.
Mr. Trulli,
Taroni.
I'm sorry?
Taroni.
Turelli?
Taroni.
Taroni.
Yeah.
Bruce Wyman, M636 Galvin Avenue. I guess I need a little clarification in that case. You made a statement concerning someone that was by a hearing with 3 attorneys involved that was dismissed from an office. And under the circumstances, you suggested that it's illegal to reappoint them right after that. Is that
To the vacancy created by that, that's what the
Right.
statute says.
right? No, the statute doesn't. That would be an idiotic thing to say, I guess, in my opinion. And I guess I'm entitled to the opinion because why would somebody take them out with due cause and then want to hire them right back again? That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So there has to be at least some time in between there. So your explanation lacks a bit of veracity as I see it. And under the circumstances, there probably are questions that are still sitting out there. I don't know that anybody, what are the allegations that were made? Because I was told by the chair on the meeting last Monday, not this Monday, but the Monday before, the 9th, that what are the allegations that are made? Because were there any complaints signed? I think my understanding of what happened, or one of the things that happened, is there's been requests of Freedom of Information Act requests that have been repeated on several occasions that were set up that were even designed by people from the Department of Justice and the district attorney that's just recently out of office in the county of Marathon. And what they said, and they have never been answered. How can you make an allegation about something if you don't have any information? The information hasn't been forthcoming. How do you explain that?
Well, I looked at the same information. I'm just telling you what my opinion is.
I don't care about your opinion. As a citizen of this township, I think we have the right to get information. Isn't that what the Freedom of Information Act is about?
Yes. So, I did look into these past records requests. They're under the state public records law. Anyone can make requests, and people do fairly often to all municipalities. Happens all over the place. So there's a couple of things for the administration of those requests that's outlined in the statutes. One that commonly happens is that you can charge your actual costs to satisfy the request. So if you gotta make copies or send postage, you can get a prepayment so that you don't just make all this stuff, give it out, and you don't get your expenses back. There's a lot of times that requests get started and someone gets informed that they're gonna have to pay a bill to get the stuff, and they just don't wanna pay it, and it stops right there. That's an example of a request that was not denied, it just wasn't completed from the requester. That's the statute, that's the law.
Who made that request and did that? Because I'm aware of at least two requests for some of that information, and the material was never ever provided. It wasn't a matter of being paid. So who did that? You get. I mean, this is our meeting now. By the way, this isn't the meeting of the town board. This is a meeting of the township, and you know that.
I do know where I am.
So how do you explain not giving the information?
There's only one request that the district
There were at least 3 requests.
had a question on. Okay? And I did look into that. The record showed that there was a request to have the records brought off-site to someone's house and look at them there. That's not generally how you handle records requests or how you do records. There's a couple of reasons for that. You don't generally take your original records off-site or out of your supervision. And that's because if it's the original record and it gets lost or destroyed, you just lost that record permanently.
That request was also to view, not for copy.
Right. The request was to view, not for copies. Copies can be given, but again, sometimes that people ask to view records because then they don't have to pay the copy fee. Okay? So the record showed that arrangements were never made to come to the town hall and view the records, which in fact could still be done. So the record request is not denied, again, if the citizen doesn't follow through. Okay? Specifically under this town's ordinances, which is very common in towns, because you don't have a 24 or not even a business hour staff person, you make an appointment to go to the town hall to view the records. That's generally how it works. And if someone won't come in to view the records after they request to view them, the town didn't deny the request, they just didn't follow through. And if someone wants to follow through and come look at records, they still could. Okay? She's in the back first.
I've never done a records request, so I'm just curious to, are they always written? Is there a particular form that then you document, that they never came back, that they refused to pay money? Is there any of that, or is that all just kind of word of mouth? Or, again, I've never done it, so I'm just curious as to what that.
So just generally how it works. So the law in Wisconsin is as broad as anywhere in the country. It's maybe the broadest. You do not have to make a request in writing. Okay? Now often people do it in writing just for clarity. And I always encourage people, if someone makes a request, don't be, it's not meant to be a combative procedure. You're fulfilling a service for the public. But in doing that, you often have to talk to the requester just to get some clarity. A lot of times people ask for something and it's not necessarily what they were looking for. And so just ask the person, hey, is this what you need? And if they say, no, I'm not really looking for that, it's something else, you just get these things squared away a lot quicker. So it's meant to be very broad. I mean, there's certain things you're not supposed to get, personal information, of employees and stuff like that. There can be, certain exceptions here and there, which are pretty rare.
So I guess my question would be then how, if there's no necessarily records of what happens, right? You can verbally ask for them written. How are you able to give exact examples of where somebody asked for them and they refused to pay money, or they asked for them and refuse to come in or do things like that. So obviously someone is keeping record of something somewhere, or is that word of mouth?
Yeah.
I mean.
Well, just because you make a verbal request, whoever takes it is probably gonna write it down and make a record.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Is there some type of documentation that they keep as a clerk / treasurer, or whoever handles these, that they can go back and say exactly how many records requests they've had, whether or not they've been completed, or is that kind of, if they want to, they can, but if they don't have to?
It's good, okay. So, it's very good
It
practice.
should be a yes or no, I mean.
There's not a statutory requirement that I write down what every verbal request
Okay,
is,
so then
okay?
it could be very much word of mouth or things written down that maybe didn't happen, is all I'm.
It varies. Good practice is to write those things down.
But it's whoever, we've had a lot of clerks, treasurers kind of bounce through,
Right.
whoever's in office at the time or hired at the time.
And have they had
They
the
do it
chance for some
however they
training.
want to.
Right. People do it differently, but you want that record, and it's because assuming you're gonna fulfill the request, you wanna show that you actually completed it, and that you got them the stuff that they were looking for, because that's your goal. You wanna take care of those, knock it out, so it's not a problem down the line.
Right. But you answered my question, thank you.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Kay O'Brien, M209 Red Hawk Lane. Does that include a request of records going back to 2012 involving Donna Satala? I mean, do we?
Have the right to get those records.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna make it a little more general. Can I request records from way back? Yeah, you certainly can. You can try to request anything that they might have. And if they don't have it, they're supposed to tell you, well, I don't have that one, okay? Now, how far back can you go? Again, the law has that you can ask for some time and subject matter specificity, because, if you're looking for a specific thing, we don't need to go through the whole haystack to get there. It's just inefficient. Now, do people make requests for everything in the last several years? They do. I mean, if that's your intent, that's your intent, right? But it's going to take longer, and you're probably going to get that prepay my bill first, because someone's going to have to spend quite a bit of time and resources doing it. Okay, so that's often where that request comes, and someone gets the bill back saying, because if it's in excess of $5, you can prepay. You can require prepayment. And if someone gets that bill back and they say, well, forget it, I'm not paying one of those, and that's where it dies. If it didn't get denied, that's just what it would take, and someone wasn't willing to do it that much. But you can try to request anything you want. Now, the one other caveat is, you only keep records for so long in a lot of cases. It's generally 7 years. You can have lesser timelines by statute, but a lot of records you don't necessarily keep forever. Certain important things you should, but the annual town meeting agenda, I don't know how long they'll keep that. The minutes, you better keep forever, right? That's the record of the action of what happened and the legal authorities going forward. But a lot of those real redundant, basic low-level things, you're not going to see going back further than 7 years in a lot of cases.
And even if you were to go back and anything looks different, there's nothing you can do what happened in 2012. There's nothing you can do to change it. And it's already past the legal period to do anything about.
But that's what I discussed, statute of limitations.
Right.
Yeah.
Bruce Wyman, M636 Galvin Avenue. We still need to get back to the one of the original questions. If for example, do you recommend that every township save all the financial records, the receipts, and the checks that have been put out? I mean, do they destroy those after 7 years? Do they destroy them after 20 years? What's the issue? Because I know the IRS doesn't destroy anything, for example.
Right. So the question is your rudimentary financials, your checks, your bank statements or whatnot, is it normal to destroy those after 7 years? I would say it probably is, yes. The things you keep forever are your ordinances, your minutes, the deed, old insurance policies you should really keep forever because you can get coverage from the past that you didn't know about until the future. You know, there's a couple of things you do keep forever. There's a couple of things, you know, most everything falls into that 7 years.
So then, do banks throw that stuff away after 7 years too?
I don't know what they do with it.
Oh, but you're a legal person. You're supposed
I don't
to.
do bank law.
You're supposed to be on. No. You're supposed to be on top of that. I'm a doctor too, and I don't know everything about pediatrics, but I know a lot about OBGYN and especially reproductive endocrine. But I can tell you about somebody with a broken leg. So maybe you can explain to me. Do banks get rid of that? Because this sounds like pretty rudimentary information.
I don't know their statute. I don't represent banks ever. I do municipal law. Yes, sir.
Bob Steiner, I'm 220 Foxfire Lane. I'm a doctor too, and if you, not being a pediatrician, if somebody comes to you with a question about pediatrics, you're not going to answer it. You're going to refer them to the proper specialist. I think it's unfair to ask him to answer a question that's not within his area of expertise.
That's not true.
Well,
I
then
would answer the question, especially if somebody said I have a fever. And that's the question I asked him. I didn't ask him about specific bank law. I asked him what he knew about whether or not they would destroy their records after 7 years.
When this first request first came out, we went to the bank where we have our banking.
Yeah, it was one of your previous attorneys.
Yes.
And I saw that paperwork. It was part of the stuff I did look at. And the estimate from the bank to try to recover some of that stuff was, I think, about $1,500.
Yes.
Because they were going to have to hire an IT person or whatever to search their computers. And that's the example I was brought up, where someone got presented with that bill and then decided they don't want them so bad. And actually, that was a reporter, I think in Marshfield, who asked for those. They got the bill to get them. They said, you know, don't bother. So that happens all the time. Sometimes you make a request, you don't know what it's going to cost till you ask. You know, especially if you're a reporter, they ask all the time. Trust me.
But you know, there's an issue with banks and with the way the information is given out, even in the medical community. As an attorney, I know that if you go and you demand a series of records, that it will cost different to you than it would if, for example, if the patient did it or if it was going to go to another doctor. And I know that for a fact. And the pediatrician over there knows that as well.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, George Gerfus, M326 Birch. He was talking about the allegations that were made. I'm assuming the ones that made the allegations are here tonight, be it 1, 2, 3, a herd of them, whatever. Why don't they stand up and tell us what the allegations are? The ones that made them. I'm assuming they're here. I don't know who they are, but I'm assuming.
Actually, that's not true, George. Nobody's making any allegations because there's no. George, I'm sorry. Nobody's making any allegations because there's no information out. You can't allege anything unless.
I'm talking about allegations. Why do you think he's here?
But there aren't any allegations. You can't allege something that you don't know anything about.
Yes, there are.
No, there aren't. There may be some people with guilty consciences, for example, but there are no allegations because nobody knows anything.
Well, then what the hell is he here for?
I have a very good question. That's a very good question.
Well,
okay.
I will.
Point of order.
But sir, part of the reason I'm here is what I mentioned before. Try to come to a couple meetings and maybe we can nip some of the stuff in the bud. Because 8 years from now, we don't want to be arguing about something that maybe slipped under the radar and no one noticed at the time. So we're going to just try to tighten it up a little bit going forward, and we'll see how long we need to do that. Okay, I wasn't in 12, I can't change 12 either. I can change, 2018 for you guys. And I've had a lot of discussions, and that's partly why I told you at the beginning, I don't represent Carolyn or other board member or whoever else, I represent the town. And that's the town's best interest. Okay? The town is a public entity. So, that's what we're here to do. There's laws. You're not going to agree with the laws. A lot of times you hear them. I don't either. But we can at least make sure we follow the law to the best of our ability, and especially going forward. If the town wants to spend money on a third investigation of what happened in 12, even though there's no statute of limitations still in effect, you can pay me to do that. I only looked at the stuff that was recently delivered in 17, okay? There was a question right there.
Kevin Steins, M313 Birch Street. I am a board member. I did write a letter of concern, I'm not gonna say allegations, of concern about the practices of the budget, finance stuff. I'm sure you've got it. Part of what I sent, it just happened to be your own words as far as procedure. I'm sure you've looked at that.
And I don't want to cut you off, but I'm not here to tell you that we shouldn't tighten some things up, okay? There's some things that can get a better presentation, a little more, you know, as you guys discussed tonight, that, or just because, even if it's not legal, just because you want it to be that way. We can address a bunch of those concerns, and that shouldn't be a problem for us. Sorry to jump in, but.
So, I mean, with the state statutes that seem to be pretty clear, and township ordinances, I mean, these are the guidelines that we are governed by and we are supposed to follow. So amending budgets, because we adopted a line item budget, we need to amend the budget to pay the bills. They need to be per line item, there needs to be money in there to write the checks, correct?
Yes, and we tried to discuss what had occurred, and I'm not real clear on what happened. But I can just tell you, you know, this fall when you make a budget, I can definitely be there and make sure that we help do it right. Okay, if you want me to look at this past one, that's up to you guys as a board, okay? But I can definitely be there to make sure that we do it right this next time. And you'll be on board.
A lot of my concern that I had in there was the fact that we were through the end of the year and we did not amend the budget from last year because we were told the numbers just weren't matching. So to go out and purchase something that was not in the budget for 2018 without having 2017's amended, we as board members are responsible to everybody in the community, not necessarily to each other, but to the community. And to do that, I'm under the assumption that we need to follow state statutes and township ordinances.
And you're right about that. Okay? And all I'm getting at is, because I wasn't in the passenger seat right then, I wasn't riding shotgun with y'all, I didn't see the play-by-play of what occurred. Okay? And if we want to review that, we can review that. But I can definitely be there this next year, because we're going to do budgets around the corner in fall. I know we're not even in summer yet, but.
Well, I mean, it's not just budget time for that, but I mean, every monthly meeting where we pay bills. And because we did not adopt a general budget, we adopted a line item budget. There has to be money in the line items, or we have to amend.
Yeah, no, you're making a good point, and that's kind of why I was not sure what happened. I'm not sure what kind of specificity you adopted in that budget. And I haven't been through that document yet, because really for the general town stuff, I haven't even really started, okay? And that's what we're trying to change here. And so I will go through that document with you, and we will make sure that it's legal and understandable to your preferences. That's what I can tell you, for sure. Yeah.
Sir, Larry C. for M341 Elm Street. You mentioned state statutes numerous times. Are the town of McMillan supposed to follow the state statutes to the letter of the law? And do they?
Well, I can tell you, I've been around and almost nobody is doing everything right all the time. And so, I'll start with that. And that's partly why we get statutes changed every so often, as they get too old. Ordinances are the same way, by the way, and that's something they'll have to decide if we want to go through that ordinance code, because it's pretty big. But yeah, as long as the law is there, a town in particular is what's called a statutory body. So you really have the authorizations that the statutes give you, and that's what it is.
So if they're not following state statutes and ordinances, What's the procedure?
Depends what it is, okay? And if it's a lot of things that I can just see, and I've gone over just only a handful of things, just like I say, I haven't gotten into your general town business as much yet. But there's a couple of things I've said, you know, is this the question, is this the question? You know, if this were be what's going on, it might not be correct. You know, I took a policy copy here tonight I'm gonna look at for the town to see if we're doing that correct or not. So, what's the correct procedure? Well, number one, you know, we need to examine whether it's right or not, and if we're not doing the right thing, we need to make a change. And these things happen, and I gotta tell you, it doesn't matter if you're a city, village, town, county, doesn't matter how big you are, these things just get ahead of people. The law changes faster than you can keep up. And that's a lot of it, and not just the legislature. There's court decisions that happen, and a lot of people don't notice those even as much. And then you can be down the road, and you know, the number one way people notice it is you're trying to enforce something, or it comes to a head, and then you look into it, and then you figure out everything you've got, you know, that's a liability going on. So to get ahead of that game takes a different commitment, and I think that's what we've been talking about doing here.
But the statutes that are in place today are the ones that should be followed, correct?
Those are the statutes today. That's correct.
And the ordinances that are in place today also have to be followed?
Those are the ordinances in place today.
So when they all take an oath, they all abide by following state statutes and the town ordinances when they take their oath of office, correct?
That sounds pretty logical to me.
Second question is, you mentioned something earlier about charging for copies?
Yeah.
Okay, what is the fee for charging for copies, and who determines that fee?
You actually set the fee in your own municipality. They are generally between 15 and 25 cents a page. I can tell you that you charge fees, your actual direct and necessary cost. That's what the statute says. I just actually made a record response, I think yesterday, for a different municipality. Someone was requesting a whole bunch of pictures that the municipality had on file. You had to go buy a flash drive to put them on to mail to this person. So that's the cost of buying a flash drive to put them all on, and then the shipping to mail, because it was just enormous. You couldn't do it over email or anything like that. So it's whatever it costs. You don't get all your expenses, but you're meant to get some of those expenses, you know, as a cost of doing business back for the person who wants it.
So the norm for that would be 15 cents to 25 cents per copy.
For a normal just copy.
That would be paper copies and not flash drives and whatever else, correct?
For a normal paper copy, that's generally the rate, yeah, 15 to 25 cents.
And who determines what copies are handed out? Did they contact you first to see if these feasible requests are going to be released?
Most places are answering the vast majority of their records requests without ever talking to me. Because, you know, most of them aren't that big. But you get into complicated ones, that's where I get involved. And if they're requesting stuff that is borderline whether it gets released or not, someone has to review those items, maybe make certain redactions before you can release those.
Why would you have to do that? Because it's a public record.
Not everything gets to be public. Personally identifiable information.
Correct. I understand employment and medical is not public information.
That's the key stuff.
But anything that pertains to town government is public information, correct?
Yeah, most of that stuff is.
So why would you want to black things out?
Well, for most of that stuff I don't. Most of that stuff I don't even get called about. It's when someone's trying to get that sensitive information that we have to review it. I've got a guy right now trying to request, you know, medical histories of employees, and I'm trying to take care of that. I mean, people come and ask. You know, and I can't. Yeah. But people ask, and we don't control, you know, we're not the spigot. We just have to react and fulfill a duty when people ask for that stuff. But it was way in the back first here. Oh, for her?
You can take him. No, I was trying to get his attention for you.
Oh, thanks, yeah. I thought
Well, hold on.
things would work tonight. I'm
Ma'am?
good.
Okay.
Yeah, we can move on.
It's my understanding that there have been official and unofficial allegations of criminal activity on the part of town officials and misappropriation of funds. Do you have any evidence that you believe represents criminal activity or misappropriation of funds?
I personally did not investigate that. Those allegations all center around 2012, as far as I know. I personally did not go through the 2012 records. Two entities didn't find anything. That's what I know. Again, if your town government wants to pay me to go through those two to see if I find anything, I'm willing to do that. But I don't know if it's worth your money just because the statutes of limitations have run and two people already looked.
Well, I'm asking you that question because there are people here that still don't seem to be willing to accept the fact that there was an investigation then, that it was determined that there was no misappropriation, that there was no criminal activity, and we don't seem to be able to get over that.
All we can do and all I can personally help you with is to keep you between the lines going forward. And that's the main way that you can answer questions about the past, is not repeat a mistake. And that's the main thing I can tell you here tonight. Yes, ma'am.
Dorothy Olson, M341 Fox Avenue. Seeing how I've been glared at enough here tonight, nobody has ever requested or said that there was allegations about criminal. All anybody has ever asked is, where did the money orders go? That is what has been asked. Sheriff Parks helped us write those requests. That's all anybody has ever asked. Where did the money orders go?
Okay. And I appreciate that.
And that was found after the termination of the treasurer clerk at that time. No, I'm not naming her. All we've asked is, what happened to the money? We had a meeting previously where we had an attorney come and talk to us and threaten libel. They were supposed to be working with the, we've had it.
I'm laughing because I know who you're talking about.
Right,
All right.
right.
And we've talked about that as well.
And open records requests are legal. You folks have the right to ask a question. Nobody, I'm not saying that anybody absconded with money. We just want to know, money orders are not not the method of using for paying bills. I mean, that's just not. You can look up state statutes. They do not recommend money orders, but we were doing it. We sat at a meeting and we found out that John Bajowski, he sat there, he said, well, we did money orders all the time. Had two board members saying, no, we didn't. Debbie, you said, no, we did not do money orders. You sat there, and that's on record, and you said, yes, we do not do money orders.
We didn't
And you
when
were
I
right.
was,
Right.
when I was on the board, we never
Right.
did money orders.
But
So at that point, from that point on, I
We
know
haven't.
did. Right.
But all we've ever asked is, what happened to the money?
What money orders are you looking for one thing? I have no idea.
Well, it was, you go
And
back and.
there were never any issues
Because see,
that
those
I know
were
of.
found after that clerk was, that one left, the next one found some of the records. And that's how it was found. Nobody knew that we were working with money orders previously.
I didn't.
No.
So.
But the fire department, John Bajowski stated he had been chief, we always worked in money orders.
And they probably did at that point.
And this is why we have asked. Nobody has accused anybody of anything. All we've just asked is, where did it go? Where did it go?
Well,
Yeah.
I appreciate, hold on, I appreciate her comment, and I believe you. It's just that when the sheriff's department investigated, they're investigating it for criminal offenses. That's their only job. And that's why they didn't, and they haven't thus far referred it to the DA to prosecute as a crime. Okay, maybe that's why. And I appreciate it, but once you give it, to the cops, that's the only way the cops handle things. So it became a criminal investigation, even if you didn't intend it to. Is that fair?
Well, that was their impression. That was not mine. That was, I never taught, did that. All
Okay.
I asked was, where did it go?
Ma'am?
Because I don't have an agenda in front of me, because I don't think there is one for the annual meeting, but I'm just curious, are we still at like Carolyn's announcement part, or have we moved on to the meeting? Can we make a motion to move on so we can get home before midnight?
I can have a
I'm just
seat.
curious.
I can have a seat, folks. You know, I'll be back some other night of board meetings to help out, but
So I don't know if we need to make a motion to move on from Carolyn's announcement.
you can just move on.
Or can we just move on? And agree to disagree, because everyone in this town kinda hates each other, and we just need to move on.
All right.
I mean,
We can move on, Carolyn. I got one thing to do, well, business-wise.
Okay. Well, is there any other questions by anyone? Any questions by anyone? I think that, I would like you to maybe address the, when the open records request, that when we were requested a certain, for these money orders, we gave everything that we had to this person, and they said, no, there's still another one, but they would not give us the number of the money order. We have no way of knowing how to pursue this. And so, I mean, I don't know what more we need to do.
I can tell you what, a municipality, so her question is, what do you do with these difficult requests where you don't even know how to find it or where it is? I mean, this is one of these requests that I just was handling earlier this week. They're gonna have to hire an IT firm to comb through their computers to see if it exists. And who's gonna pay that fee? The requester. And if they don't wanna pay it, then they're not gonna bother. That's how it's gonna work. So if you can't find it, you can't find it. If you wanna take additional measures, that cost just gets passed on. That's how it works. If someone wants to pay for it, then you'll be doing that.
One last one, Kevin Steins, M313 Birch. So with the township ordinances that we have that potentially are not being followed, your recommendation to go forth with that as a board, how do we
Here's how it
bring that
works.
to light and
Sure.
get those taken care of?
Here's how it works with ordinances. If you don't like the ordinance, change the ordinance. You're the body that passes the ordinance, amends the ordinances. So if you've got one, they can become problematic. It depends exactly what it is and how it can become a problem. But if people don't want the ordinance, your best bet is to just get rid of the ordinance or change it. Okay? And as long as it's there, it's supposed to be followed. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so should we have an ordinance committee put in place, or? We had one.
We had one.
And I mean, people do it different ways. To go through your whole code is expensive, okay? Because that's a lot of time, and you have a very large code. You have a very large code, okay? It's over 400 pages, and you don't even have town zoning.
Tried to read it all one night.
So it's a very large code. And maybe at a board meeting is more appropriate. I have guesses as to why you ended up with that, okay? But it's not because it was something that your town was tailor-made for or really needs probably at least half of that, if not more. Okay? So if you cut down to what you actually need, you're gonna have an easier time following it. Okay?
I do have they keep going back to the ordinances. There was, I was, told that I was a failure of leadership because I had not followed the town ordinances. Because in our ordinances, it states that you shall have a highway committee. Well, I make appointments, and when I call people and ask them to participate in the committee, and they tell you that no, they won't be on that committee because they don't like certain board members, or they don't like the way they act. They won't. So after so many calls, we don't have a committee, highway committee, but it's in the ordinance that we should. So what we have done, in place of because nobody wants to work with the supervisors. First of all, I was told I should change supervisors. Secondly, And so, and then the second thing is, we go to people that have knowledge about the highway. Our town engineer, Jim Griesbach, who is the county commissioner. And all of these people, the builders of the roads and so forth, they have a lot of knowledge. And so that's who we work with. So, but they're saying that because that's what the big deal is with the ordinances, not following them.
Okay, and that's one of the most, that's a very common one that I see, that there's a body or a responsibility somewhere that they haven't done for years and years and years. If we get around to cleaning up our ordinances, we'll clean up that stuff. And it's a chance to re-examine some of that stuff to make sure we do it how we want to do it going forward too. So, same answer. Yes, sir.
Hi, Gary Franz, M526 Porch. I have one statute that I'd like to get corrected now. As I was out campaigning, pounding on doors, I heard a lot of complaints about the clerk's office hours. They were on Patty all the time when she was our clerk about keeping her hours posted on that door all the time and on the answering machine. It's not being done now. State statute says the clerk's office hours have to be posted on the door. Let's do it.
Which statute?
I don't remember what it was, but there's a statute saying that the clerk's office hours are supposed to be posted.
Okay.
I've had several complaints. They come down here and nobody's ever around. There is a note on the door now to call Deb, but I don't think that's quite the same as listing hours.
Okay. So, should we move on to business?
Okay.
So I'm gonna stand up here, because I have something to tell you guys for your business. The motion, you sound good? The motion was made to have a vote on returning the appointed positions of clerk and treasurer to elected positions. So you, I believe.
No, that was not a motion. I made a motion.
Oh,
I
what?
made a suggestion.
Okay.
I added onto the agenda. The motion has not been made yet.
Right.
And this is the annual meeting of the citizens,
Correct.
okay?
The annual meeting of the citizens can't vote on it. You have to have a town of a population of at least 2,500, which you're at about 2,000. I was checking it while we were sitting
So you knew
there.
ahead of time you was gonna make that motion?
No, I didn't know.
How'd you check into it?
I'm using my phone. I'm on the Wi-Fi.
Oh, here, after.
Yeah. So the 2010 census was 1968. Department of Administration at the state does an annual estimate. Their latest in 17 is 2012. You're just nowhere near 2,500. Now, there is a way to change it, so I'll just finish the answer, but it's a different way. There has to be an ordinance passed by a town board to go back the other way in your town. Okay? But unfortunately, that's not an elected meeting vote. I just wanted to bring that up before I set out.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Previously, they were elected, and that change was made to go to the appointed positions. Where was that change made at? Was that change made just by an ordinance? Or
There
was
should
it-
be an ordinance somewhere, yeah.
All right. It had to be an ordinance, and from what I read in here, it had to be initiated by the town, and then there had to be a referendum.
Yeah, that's the process.
That's the process.
Yep, there's two, but the one process where the elected meeting votes is only available in a town over 2,500 population. Okay? So when I roll into the next board meeting, this next month or whatever, if that's on their agenda for me to look into, you know, I'll do that. I can look at your ordinances in between, of course. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the audience?
Carolyn?
Yes.
Being we can't make a motion and do it this way, can we at least have a discussion of what people think about this?
I guess you can.
This is Wayne. You know, when I first moved into the township 24 years ago, I paid very little attention to any of the politics. I didn't have time for that, to be honest with you. And I assumed everything was going, great, that a wonderful township like this is gonna elect or appoint, or whatever they did, the right people to do the work. And then I started hearing things that just, actually, I couldn't believe. And I heard some young lady in the back say, well, everybody in here hates one another, let's go home. Actually, the term that I think should be used sometimes, and I don't mean by this group, but going back as far as I can remember, the amount of dysfunction that we've had.
Yes,
All right?
correct.
And dysfunction is a term that's, you know, I use kind of cautiously, but that's what we have here. And we shouldn't have this. And the reason why I thought about, along with a few other people, about maybe going back to the elected way of doing this, it may take the heat off of some of the people who are taking heat for some of these actions. I mean, if we elect these people and they don't do the job we want, or we don't like the way they're doing it, then we elect somebody else. And I know there's a lot of reasons to appoint. I'm not real smart, but I'm smart enough to understand that when you appoint people, you can appoint people outside the township, you can appoint people who have special training, which sometimes you can't get in elected people in the township. But certainly when you elect the people, it would take away a lot of the things we heard tonight about who discharged someone and who reappointed someone who shouldn't have been reappointed because they were discharged. We wouldn't have any of that. And anything that we can do in this township to get rid of the dysfunction, or some of it, would really be helpful. And I just would like to hear what other citizens think about electing versus appointing these positions. Being we're not gonna make the decision, being it's gonna be made at the board from what I understand now. And I read this carefully, and I saw the 2,500. I didn't know how many we had, that was what I didn't know. I thought we were right at that, or over, but I stand corrected.
Thank you for your comment. You know, the first meeting that I went to for Wisconsin Towns Association, I went to a lecture by a gentleman by the name of Rick Stottleman. He was the executive director of Wisconsin Towns Association. He gave an excellent presentation, but I had questions. I was newly elected, didn't know anything, and I had some questions for him. Now, you know, Lee knows Rick Stottleman very well. He was a mentor of yours, correct?
Sure.
I went up to him after his presentation. Now, some of you maybe were at that first meeting that I had, where I told you that I went up to him and I said, introduced myself. I said, I'm newly elected chairman of the town of McMillan. He said, stop right there. I'm not going to talk to you. I said, okay, why? He said, your township is dysfunctional. and we have now gotten to the point in Wisconsin Towns Association that we have designated Carol Nawrocki to be the only one to try and deal with you people. So I think that Lee came on board maybe, I don't know when, well, you had to have been there. You've been in, we're in Wisconsin Towns Association 9 years. And so, and I was elected 7 years ago. So you had to have been there, but anyway, I know that that maybe is the way that you treated it. So when we held our first meeting, I said to people, you know, this is the way people, outside people, are looking at us. We don't have good communication skills here. For some reason, it's always this group or that group and what have you. All I'm asking you is to, when you speak respectfully and civilly to each other. Have a conversation if you have a problem. Now, I make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. There may be things that I've done that should have been done differently. It was never any intention of mine. If I've done something wrong, then that's the way, then I was wrong. And I will own up to that. But why can we as a community not work together and communicate with each other? Now, all of these stories that I'm hearing of things that are being said about me, I don't like hearing those things. because most of them, I feel, are not the truth. I have not been doing, everything I've been doing lately illegal. As far as I know, I have not broken any laws. It maybe was not treated as well as it should have been. Maybe, you know, but that's why we are here. We were elected as board members. As Lee said to me, I said, all right, so what are the directions for the supervisors? All of us, including me. He said, we are, I think as you so kindly said, it is our privilege to be elected and serve you as your elected officials. Other than that, we do not have the right to do anything more than any other citizen within the community. Just because you think you're an elected position, official, does not give you the right to do anything you want to do. That's not the way it works. And we as a board try to go along with that. We don't always agree, and that's okay too. But you gotta agree to disagree. Yes?
I appreciate your comments, but I want to go back to what I was trying to talk about. And the attorney over here states that and I'm seeing here, I read this thing today, and I see about the 2,500. But my understanding is that the original change, and I'm sure we didn't have 2,500 people living here when this change was made through this group who then directed the referendum which made the change. Okay, so it may have been illegal to have done it in the first place, is my point.
Yeah.
So
it did go through referendum. Was there any?
There was a referendum.
There was a referendum to do this.
Well, you have to have a referendum.
Yeah.
It's in the state statute.
Yeah,
To
right.
go back, you don't. But it sounds like, from what I have heard, that this was done back whenever it was done. It initiated at this meeting, okay?
Okay.
And then, and that's what I'd like to get, the information how this process occurred when it did happen. Okay. Because if it did and we had less than 2,500 people, it was done wrong to start off with.
No, that isn't correct, is it? If we have, oh, you mean at this meeting, it was initiated or brought up? I don't know, but I think we do have records.
What you told,
We'd have to look into what exactly happened. I mean, one guess that would explain it, I don't know if this would happen, but sometimes the annual meeting says let's do it, and then the board, because of that, does the ordinance and then has the referendum. I've seen that before. So maybe they still did it right, and the people just asked for it.
and what you're saying is that.
But we'll have to look into what we
What you're
find.
saying is because we have less than 2,500 people, and I'm reading this, and it looks like the interpretation's correct, that we can't take the action. We have to recommend, or we can, I guess, recommend to our board to take the action.
Sure.
And that's what, I'd like to see what other people think. Maybe I'm the only one who thinks they ought to be elected. If I am, that's an easy vote, you know?
Yes.
I'd like to ask the lawyer, what percentage of the townships in the state of Wisconsin have elected officials versus appointed? Do you know that figure?
Actually, I can get you pretty close here.
Because I've heard the figure bandied around that 95% of the townships in the state are elected officials versus appointed. And I'd like to see if you can confirm that.
He's talking about the treasurer and the clerk.
Treasurer and the clerk.
For clerks, about 85% in the state are still elected. About 15% have gone to appointed. Treasurers, it's less so. Maybe half that. Yeah, about half that. So maybe 8% of treasurers are appointed.
80%?
8 are appointed.
Appointed.
Vast majorities are still elected.
Okay. I think that's something for the township to think about.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question for you, because you're so quick with your phone there. Is at an annual meeting, and I don't know if this is even possible, it's just stuff goes through my head, but with town boards and things like that, are you able to set term limits? Is that an ordinance, is that a statute, is that not even possible, that you can't set term limits?
So,
Anything about term limits?
everyone heard the question? There are not term limits for town officers, no.
Anywhere.
No, and you don't have the ability to pass one. Good question.
Okay, so, here, you want somebody to speak to?
No, I
agree
was
with
hoping to
Gary.
hear what
I'll
other
speak
people
first.
thought. I mean, he just told us what the percentages are, and the other people must not all be stupid. And, if, 8% of the treasurers are elected and 15% of the, 8% of the other treasurers are appointed and 15% of the clerks, we're in by far the minority here. And I just am wondering if this is causing us some problems. Whereas if we can elect these people and something goes wrong, it's on our back, not.
Thank you. John?
Yes, M435 East McClellan. Maybe we could have a show of hands of,
We get a paper vote.
which, huh?
We get a paper vote.
Let's do a paper ballot.
Motion. Paper ballot.
I mean, it's not gonna be anything official or anything, but we could get a, right, consensus, right.
Bruce Wyman, M636 Galvin Avenue.
I agree with him because I feel like if the board is speaking for the people, if the majority of the people that are here at this meeting raise their hand, it would be pretty asinine to then have a meeting where then the board votes against it.
I think,
Is where I think.
I think the proper way to do it is I'm gonna make a motion that we recommend to the board that they pass an ordinance to change the way we, acquire, to change the way we, hire our clerk and treasurer to back to an elected position.
I second that motion.
Can I ask a question on this?
Let's take a vote.
We recommend
Just a
this.
minute, let's do it this way.
Do they
The
have to
motion
be
is,
residents?
wait just a minute, Ricky. The motion has been made and seconded to
Recommend to the board.
recommend to the board to, the possibility of going back to an elected clerk treasurer position.
Now, my recommendation, my motion, is to recommend to the board that they initiate the change of the current ordinance to go back, okay? Let's just clarify the wording, okay? I can write it out if you want.
She's got it.
You got
She's
it?
got it.
The word possibility was.
No, I didn't use possibility.
No, he did not. Okay, read it.
Can I ask a question about that? So, when you're saying clerk treasurer, are you talking one person or two?
Two. You currently have two anyway.
Wanted to make that.
They can decide that. We have no, all I'm saying is that it becomes elected.
You can't elect a combined people.
This is advisory.
Yeah, it's advisory only.
They got to be a resident of town,
To be elected, yes.
It has to be okay.
Carolyn?
Okay,
My
now,
que-
the motion has been made and seconded, let's read it, and then
She
we'll
has a
open it for
question. All right.
discussion.
Recommend to the board to initiate to go back to elected clerk treasurer position, correct?
Right.
Clerk and.
Clerk and treasurer.
Clerk and treasurer's position.
Okay, so it's been seconded.
Can you read that again? We couldn't hear it back here. Sorry. In my ears.
To recommend to the board to initiate to change
The current ordinance.
the, okay, current ordinance. To go back to an elected clerk treasurer position.
Clerk and treasurer.
Clerk and treasurer's position.
Okay.
I got Andy in there.
Okay, now Ruth, let's,
Okay, my
for
question is,
discussion.
my question is, do they have to be a resident of the town?
Yes.
Be elected, yes.
Yes, Kate.
My question is, somewhere they're giving their qualifications for these positions.
Not if you're elected.
So, yeah, but
18 years old, not a felon,
But
US citizen.
our board doesn't come with qualifications.
Okay, I think there's a little bit more.
And it works in 92% of the townships.
Yes.
After my wife became the clerk, I never realized there was so much involved. You people all think this is gonna be so fabulous, you know, okay, see, I'll use me as an example, because everybody thinks I'm such a delight. You put me on the ballot, okay, I ain't got a clue. And if I win this, what the hell am I supposed to do? I watched her, and I won't say struggle, she went through all kinds of bullshit for this township, because we were in a bind. And and just for example, the election thing, Jesus Christ, you have no idea how much she was involved with that. You know, so all of a sudden you think this is gonna be so fabulous? You better have somebody that knows what the hell they're doing, I'll tell you that.
All right.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Durkin. This is Gary Meyer again from Birch Street.
I didn't hear what you say. Speak up, I'm hard of hearing.
All right, well, I'll speak pretty loud, so this will be real hard of hearing.
I am hard of hearing.
The issue with people being qualified, as far as I'm concerned, the number one qualification is a true desire to want to do this for your township, okay? That's the number one qualification. And just a little intelligence, which most people have. And probably at least a high school education, which most people have. Not that other training isn't valuable. And there's nothing that says that we can't send people to get other training. I think it's even listed in the statutes that elected positions in these elected positions, that many of the townships can send them. I saw this, I've been reading about this today, send them out to get trained. I mean, no one is immortal. I mean, Deb's not immortal. She might not be here tomorrow, who knows? And the day after, God forbid, but we need to decide what the process is that we want to choose these people. And I do believe the rest of the state is not all stupid if they keep elected people. There are reasons for that. And I think it has caused us some problems. And it may solve some problems. And that's just my take on it. We'll find people who want to do it, who can do it, and qualify.
Yes, Joe.
Joe Berger, M321 Birch Street. I would like to get a feel from the members, because I am currently the chairman of a 4-person committee to recommend appointment of a new clerk and a new treasurer. And if this is gonna happen, what kind of time schedule should we be on with doing this? Do we just maintain our current interim clerk treasurer and then move on from there?
It's certainly advisory as far as the board's concerned, but we are going to take a paper vote.
Will not take effect until the following election year, when the people go, when they go out and get nominated for, they have to go to the caucus, get nominated for the position, and at the caucus, people can choose which people they think would be the better ones. And then, so it wouldn't happen until, for another year, till next April's election. That's when the election would happen.
And it's also stated that they have to be elected the same year as the chairman and the 2 supervisors in the odd number year. That's in the state statutes. That if you're gonna elect these people, they're elected the same year as the chairman in the odd number year. That's when they're together.
Or 3, depending on what they're hired for. Because they can be hired for up to 3 years. Yes. Pardon?
No, they're elected.
You're elected.
If they're appointed.
Just a question on that. Are they elected on the same year?
Elected for 2 years.
The clerk and
Appointed
the
for
treasurer.
up to 3 years.
The clerk and the treasurer in the same year?
It's in the state statutes.
Usually,
Odd number years.
Odd number we just did this year, so.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm gonna say, I guess being your chief, it is horrible to lose both people at the same time. It's bad when you lose one, but you can rely on the one that was there and what they did for continuity to go forward. Our biggest problem is we have too much changeover. We need to figure out a way to get this from changing over so often, not more changeover. In elections, you're gonna have more changeover, because people are gonna get in and go, I'm 1 term and I'm out.
They're doing that now.
Yes, exactly.
Carolyn?
Yes.
Carrier Town know, I'm 505 Conrady, I'm not your chief, but Joe, in answer to you, I don't know that we can tell you how quickly this needs to happen, because we're making a recommendation to the board. Doesn't mean they have to do anything with our recommendation. So unfortunately, while we, if it's majority or not, would love to say, get somebody hired, get them in, the elections will happen next April, it's in your guys' hands, because you're the ones that are gonna be making the decision to change the ordinance. We're only recommending it. So the answer comes down to the 5 of you that are representing all of us as to how soon it needs to happen.
Thank you
Or
and
if it
Russ,
will
thank you and Russ for that information, that will help me going forward immensely.
Thank you. Okay, yes.
Bob Steiner, M220 Foxfire Lane. I have two concerns about this. I think ideally it's a great idea, but I have two concerns. And having just run for office, not everyone is suited to run for office. There's expenses, there's time, and there's putting yourself out there publicly. So we're going to reduce the number of qualified people because they're not going to want to run for office. My second concern is we only have about 2,000 people in McMillan. Maybe we have 1,000 adults, maybe 1,200. The treasurer in particular, that is a skill set. You want someone who has knowledge of numbers, accounting skills, and so forth. Not to say the clerk doesn't, but I think it's easier to think about the treasurer position. Now you've reduced your pool of applicants to a very small number because it has to be someone within the township of McMillan if it's elected. So my concerns are the number of qualified people is going to be vastly reduced by having them have to run for office and have the skills available and be a township member.
That's what I said, but not as well.
There you go. Jim Freund, M607 Birch Street. I appreciate the idea of going to elected. As to the point of the qualified treasurer, no, you don't need to be an accountant. I say this because my father, who was a farmer in the town of Tachita, never graduated high school, but was the town treasurer for 8 years. The clerk was a plumber. Graduated high school, but barely. So qualifications, you just have to have a knowledge of math, add and subtract. But I also want to express appreciation for those who are currently appointed, because having the experience of watching my father in the township, which was far larger than town of McMillan as far as number of properties. I know this because we sorted out the tax bills on the ping pong table in our living room, and it took us 3 weeks. But it's a thankless job, and it takes a lot of hours to do it. And if you want to do it, you've got to have a real want to do it, because it is time consuming, either one of them, whether elected or appointed. As far as, well, I don't know, can we elect someone that's qualified? Absolutely. It's working in 92% of the townships in the state of Wisconsin.
Thank you.
It's a common sense statement.
Yeah, the jobs, I came into this with not a lot of knowledge of this, and it probably takes, I would say, at least 2 years before I began to feel really comfortable with the job. Now, you don't come into the job because you want power. You don't come into the job because you're going to get rich. You come into the job because you you feel in your heart for this community. You want the best for this community that you can help get. Now, like I said, you don't always do maybe everything the way everybody would like, but you know, it's a real learning curve. And whether you're elected or you're appointed, it's the same. It's the same. Because municipal law is not the same, and Lee, you can expand on that, as other laws.
Well, you'll trust me in that. No, just kidding. Let me just say, on the clerk treasurer, I don't have the numbers in front of me. I can't look them up as easy. I know that for cities and villages, there's a higher percentage of appointed than elected. And, you know, the more complex professional the needs require, that percentage kind of goes up. I don't know where they're at though. I can't say. What else do I gotta say?
The municipal law and the other laws.
It's not easy. I mean, people always say, why can't we get the government to run like a business? Well, you heard it tonight. You heard it tonight. Because we have to honor every public records request that comes in. How many businesses do that? Okay? We have to come here in front of the people and talk about whether the budget looks good enough or not. How many businesses are doing that? You know, fundamentally, we're just not the same, and it's not kind of your other walk of life a lot of times. I mean, we all come from other walks of life to do this, but it is hard. It's gotten harder over the years. Your number one concern, I would just say, for clerks and treasurers, is you better get someone who wants to do computers, because there's a ton of things now that are electronic only for filing and reporting to these government agencies, and they don't even take paper anymore. So there's issues like that too, just so you're aware. Yes, ma'am.
I'm not gonna say when, because I've said it enough. Carolyn,
Yes.
I just wanna say that I appreciate the comment you made, because in my opinion, I feel that somebody that decides to run to become a treasurer or a clerk has the passion and they want to do it. If you're being appointed, it's because someone has chosen you. You may not have that drive, but you may be willing to say, yes, I'll do it because this is what I wanna do, or I've got time on my hands. I feel that if you run, that's exactly where the drive is coming from that you said, versus you guys picking somebody out of a crowd to do the job. So
Okay,
thank
Joe.
you.
Thank you.
Joe Berger once again. To that point, this is the second time I've been on a committee to try to hire somebody, or to recommend an appointment to the board for one of the positions, or more of the positions. And this time, of course, we're looking for 2 positions at the same time right now. I now have 6 applications. 3 of them are, let me get that right again.
3 clerks, 3
I got
treasurers, and 1 of both.
Yeah, one of the applications would like to be either the clerk or the treasurer. Looking them over, some of us have done that already. Clarence has helped me with that, and so has Deb Davis. And we have, in general, agreed that we've got some really good applications that came in, especially compared to some of the ones we've seen in the past, and the number of them is so nice. Other times we were choosing between 1 or 2 people to try to appoint. And so it's really not somebody just picking somebody out of a group. It's like a hiring process, like any business does. And of these 6 that I've got here, 2 of them I gotta throw away if they have to be elected, because they aren't from town of Milton. And so by doing that, are we eliminating the best person we could have as our clerk or our treasurer?
I would say most likely not, because if we can't vote until another year, whoever you hire, it doesn't mean that that's who would get elected. So I'm confused.
No, but I'm
as to
saying
why-
that this isn't.
If we have good candidates, that's great. We can get somebody in here for a year, that's a fantastic candidate, and get it set up to say.
I understand
now
that,
it's gonna be
but what I'm
elected.
saying is, those people cannot be,
Right, but it's still
cannot be
100%.
elected because they
It's
aren't
still over
from
50%
town.
of your applicants.
Could I ask a
Understand.
question? You said you had 6 applicants right now?
I have 3 for each position, and 1 is for both.
All right, so
Or is
you've
it-
got 4 people who are from the township.
Yes,
Okay, well, that's
That are
pretty
from the
good.
township?
yes.
Out of 6.
So you don't have to get rid of 2?
Well, again, depending on who we decide is the best one, if that's the way we go.
No, you don't get rid of 2 now, because that's not the way it
No.
works right now.
No,
We
these
pick
people,
anyone.
if we're gonna appoint somebody now, these people are all available to be appointed. The only thing is, I guess we'd have to make sure they're aware that, and in the past, this has been a 3-year appointment. And if we make a 3-year appointment, then next year, we're gonna elect them and they're gonna be kicked out. They have to be aware that that's at least a possibility. So, I'm just, letting the people know where this committee is gonna be and what we're trying to do to get a good clerk and a good treasurer in here. Take care of stuff. Kevin?
Kind of for Joe or Lee, what's the normal for the appointed positions in other municipalities? What is the term on most of them? Is it 3 years on standard, or?
I don't know that anyone knows what the standard is. I can tell you the statute says for any amount of time up to 3 years. So you can make an appointment for a lesser amount of time if you want. Okay?
Thank you.
Can we continue with the motion and pass it around?
Now, this is a vote, we'll just take, we're taking this vote now, we made the decision to vote by,
Question before we vote.
yes.
The motion that you made, Gary Mayu made, Larry Seer for M341 Elm Street, is to right the wrong that was done in 1997?
No.
Has nothing to do with that. No,
That's got nothing to do with 97.
no,
But that's what we're trying to do, correct?
No.
you're just trying to make,
They want to initiate a change. They want to make a recommendation to the board to change the way the clerk and treasurer positions are done. They want it elected instead of appointed. That's the recommendation they're going to be making.
Right, because we changed it in 97, correct?
so we're going to vote yes if you want it changed, no if you do not. Okay? All right, so everybody,
Carolyn, I want everybody,
yes,
before you vote, be aware, if you vote for this, this is binding.
No.
It is true.
No, it's advisory.
Binding. First 3 things of a town board meeting, and it's one of them.
No.
Here's the.
not
look at
for the
it. It's
annual.
right there, it's binding. Few things that this body can do,
Is
and the town board cannot change it.
No,
Yes,
it's advisory.
it's
It's
right there,
advisory.
read it.
Carolyn?
yes,
Carol, excuse me. As I heard it before, we because we're under 2,500, we can't require our board to do that.
No.
We can only make a recommendation that they try to do it.
Already breached that by doing it illegal the first time.
This has nothing to do with the first time. This is what we want to do from now on.
This is what.
And this is an advisory vote.
It's not.
Well, no, the recommendation,
I just want people to know.
I know, the motion on the floor is for a recommendation to the board that was switched.
it's a recommendation.
That's what the motion is, Russ.
60.10. 60.10.
But the motion on the floor is a recommendation.
This is disagree, let's vote.
This is not a recommendation.
Is it advisory or?
It's advisory.
Why would you do that?
Yes, Deb read it. Deb is okay, what statute are you reading?
That's what it should have never been done to begin with.
What are you reading, Russ?
The state statute.
Yeah, read it. What are you getting at?
60.10, powers of the town meeting. Direct powers the town may have. Direct powers mean what these people decide is law, right?
Well, that's what the direct powers are. This isn't one of them, though. Unless you're 2,500 population.
You have to be over 2,500.
Not, if that's the hair you're gonna decide this on, then fine, go ahead and do what the hell you want. but, you know.
Here's
why
the
was-
statute
why-
right
why
here.
Why wasn't it brought up the first time? Why
I
didn't
don't
they
know.
do it the first time?
In a town with a population of 2,500 or more,
I got that, I know
provide
that.
for the appointment by the town board of the town clerk, town treasurer, both, etc. Okay, it's the first sentence. In a town of 2,500 or more. There's a different statute, 60.30, that also allows every town the process to do the ordinance and referendum. That means this body doesn't directly decide. Her motion is for a recommendation to the board. So if you want to change her motion, you got to ask her anyway. But under the statutes, this would be advised.
I'm a he.
I apologize.
I think we need to keep the attitude of respect. There's voices being raised here and here. We all live in this community. Let's listen to what's being said. You vote for what you think is right. We can split hairs on our population or what's what. But if we're making a recommendation that this is what we, the people, want, then it's my personal expectation that the board follows what our recommendation is, because you're representing us, we voted for you or didn't vote for you. That's just my opinion.
Yes.
So what we're voting on is not an ordinance change, we can
No.
read it again, it is to give
Yes,
this
it
to
is.
the board
Yes,
to.
yes, it is.
Yes, and that's what I said, so if we're recommending.
Okay, let's read it one more time.
Can I say what my intention was, and we can read it again?
Yes.
My original intention, because I interpreted that we had direct powers to do this, okay, was to make a motion for this body to change it. He pointed out, and I had read this, and this morning, about the 2,500, and I thought we had 2,500 people, I had to look, I thought we were there. So I didn't think it was gonna be an issue, but reading this, my own interpretation is, I must agree that we don't have 2,500. That's one of the things that we can't do, that's one of the things we don't have direct powers to do if we don't have 2,500.
Right.
So I made my motion differently. It's a motion to recommend to the board
Recommend.
to change it. Because I was
Change the
under the
ordinance.
impression that anything I made otherwise was not.
Okay, she's gonna read the motion that was seconded. We've had our discussion, we're gonna vote. So read
The motion has been made to recommend to the town board to initiate changing the ordinance to go back to elected town clerk and treasurer positions.
Okay, so now, yes if you want the change, no if you don't. Now collect your votes.
We don't have any papers.
Pass it around.
Well, we're already starting. Honestly, guys, everyone's got their problems. And if they don't have on a regular basis to go through these phases, it's just the way it is. And the way it goes, honestly, if you commit to getting the better information in the first place, doing the best you can at the get-go, that will cut it down. But that's a commitment, you know.
Did you all get, hey, everybody got paid,
Start somewhere.
everybody voted.
Everybody good?
I got the basket, we're gonna pass it around.
And I think you saw tonight, everyone got an answer they didn't like. It's equal, I mean, that's the way it is though. No one's right on time. I'm not either. You know, usually I know enough to say, I'll get back to you. Because some things we gotta look into. But,
You don't make mistakes, you're not doing anything.
that's correct. That's correct.
You got everybody over here?
That's the truth.
I got it, I put it in the basket. She's right.
Yeah, sure.
How do you get the right number for the known people?
How many votes? We go by the census.
How many before you vote here?
Oh, some people left.
Yeah.
I don't have any.
Do we have everybody in paper ballot?
I'm frozen up. Rusty. Rusty plumbing, hey. Rusty pipe.
77. 77 votes.
I know.
77 because
I got it. Unsolved.
Okay. If you're short of 77, we abstain. So, I was on
The announcement is the Board of Review. Point of order. The Board of Review. Is May 31st, 2018, 12 till 2. That's the open book. June 7th is the Board of Review, actual Board of Review. June 7th, 7 to 9. That will be at the Town Hall. I think that we will move on from, after the vote, from the comments from the public, we will set next year's meeting date is Tuesday, April 3rd, 2019. Oh, no, wait. The third Tuesday of April 2019 is the 16th. Wait, so,
I make a motion that the next meeting will be April 16th, 2019.
second. Okay, the motion has been made and seconded to set next year's meeting date, April 16th, 2019. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, the meeting date is April 16th, 2019.
Carolyn, is your
a tire pickup thing with Pancrat's trucking again this year?
Yes, there is.
Do you have the dates on that? I'm curious.
Soon.
Dave? What are the dates for the tire pickup out of Pancrat's?
I believe it's the last Saturday, April 28th, at Pancrat's on Highway 10 near Masonville Dairy. There'll be a publication coming out in the buyer's guide, and delineating what the cost is, what's free, and what the cost is.
So we got it?
Yeah, I'm gonna be in Vegas.
Oh, too bad. So
That's what I
sad.
thought too.
That's somebody else.
Carolyn,
I believe that was on
just
your.
elaborate on the reason why the open book and the board of review are now two different.
It's, the law has changed.
Right, I know, I was.
Oh.
But you-
Well, I mean, I don't know how I can elaborate more, I just know the law has changed and that's the way it has to be. Always in the past, it's all, you know, we've had 5 to 7 was the, open book, 7 to 9 was in the board of review. But the law has changed, so,
So just with the open book, Jim will be here, so people can come down and view.
yes, yes.
And then they need to set an appointment at that time, I believe, or
With him.
us. They set it with him.
They set it and they come in with him, they set that appointment, come in and meet with him. And then if there's somebody that needs to be reviewed, they will, that will be addressed at the later meeting.
Dorothy Olson, MC 41, last year we started what we hoped was going to be an annual community picnic again. I know a lot of people had a good time at it. It didn't cost us anything other than we took money out of the park fee, we bought bicycles for the smaller kids. Are we going to do this again? We had a really good committee last year, worked hard. Does the public want this again or not?
Will there be a bouncy house?
No. We have an ordinance, well,
We can't have them.
no, because liability comes.
Oh, no, can't do that. I'm sure if somebody recommends against
They
it.
won't allow us.
But, I mean, but it worked well, people brought a dish to pass. We're gonna have to show some interest, we're gonna have to show up at the board meetings and find out what's gonna happen. The committee we had, we put a lot of effort into it, and I thank you, Deb.
Well, you guys out there, a lot of work for it. Everybody that was involved worked very hard.
Because, I mean, we have to pick a date, because a lot of the dates are picked for weddings, family reunions. We gotta,
Okay.
Okay, the vote for the recommendation for changing our, treasurer and clerk back to an elected official versus an appointed,
The ordinance,
excuse me.
the recommendation to change the ordinance.
Yes, ma'am. 46 yes, 28 no. You're counted for tonight.
Carolyn,
Yes.
on that, board of review, I might have misunderstood you there, but did you say that they, at the open book, they make an appointment for the board of review then? Is that what happens?
No. I'm not sure,
So what,
the
I mean, if, like last
assessor
year.
is there, and if they have a concern, they come in.
Open book is an opportunity for the property owner to discuss their assessments with the assessor.
Right.
And so they just come in.
If they do not come to an agreement during open book, then at that time, they would get the form from the clerk to go to board of review.
Would it be a situation that if nobody has an issue, that we wouldn't have to have a board of review?
You have to have board of review.
We have to.
You have to go through, you have to go through the board of review. And the assessor could sit there for 2 hours and not have anyone come in.
Well, that happened the last one I went to, I know that, and I just thought that if they had to
Yeah,
make
you
that
just don't wanna
appointment,
sit there
it used to be
again.
4 hours. If
For
they had
board
to
of
make that
review,
appointment ahead of time, then we
Yes.
wouldn't have to even
No.
cancel the board of
We
review.
could absolutely have to have it.
Okay.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I got one
Yes.
concern. If you got a few seconds.
Well,
What
quickly.
are we gonna happen to the Onion Case Tavern?
Yeah, what are we talking about? Is that that building?
Yes.
Yeah. Nothing's gonna happen to it.
You gotta spend money to get rid of it.
Yeah.
That's where it's at.
That's, Lee can, the question was, Mummy and Dave's Tavern, what are we gonna do about it? Lee is already very much aware of this.
Yeah, we actually set some things up for this. You have to have a separate contract with your building inspector to do building inspection as opposed to UDC inspection, which is the mandatory stuff. We got that far.
Yes.
And then at the time, I don't think the town board realized that you're probably gonna pay for demolishing. Is how it's, could very well
No,
work out.
we didn't realize it, that's why it didn't go any farther.
So if you wanna pay to raise it, we can get it raised. That's where it's at.
What about all the other vacant, dilapidated buildings in the township? Are we gonna pay to have them raised too?
Well, they haven't raised anything. Because no one paid for it.
But we haven't had any complaints about others. We have had petitions about this
Would
one.
you like complaints about the other ones?
Not particularly. Okay. Do we have a motion to?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, motion.
That was easy.